Hello again, students. Welcome back. If you missed class or you just wanted to review what we did in the second Dreamweaver class, you're going to see all of that here in detail. This is another full lecture video. As I explained at the beginning of my last video, the first few videos that start this Dreamweaver playlist in my YouTube channel are pretty long, okay? Because they're designed for my students where I teach, and they're full-on lectures involving all kinds of tips and tricks and little things to avoid and what to do if things go wrong. I do have some notes to the viewers this time. If you haven't seen that first part and you've never used Dreamweaver before, you probably want to start with that one. Okay, so you can go to my YouTube channel. I'll show you that really quickly right now because I didn't bring that up in the Okay, so here's my YouTube channel. I think I did link to it in the last video. I'll link to it in this one too. So if you want to go directly to it to see other videos, these are the two playlists that are probably most important to you right now if you're looking to make a quick and dirty website so you can focus on search engine optimization instead of focusing on all the code and the nonsense and all that stuff. So this gets you started into that, and that first video would be in the intro playlist at the very top there. Okay, so you're on the second one now, and you should have watched the first one first, especially if you're in my class, because you're probably reviewing this stuff for the test. Okay, we'll get more into these advanced techniques after we get through these first 3 lectures and take the test. All right, so if you're not in my class, you don't get to take a test, but you get to go through the video. So this is part 2 of 3. And ultimately, once I've completed the 3 parts, I will make one single video that compresses all 3, okay? And that'll come soon. So saving HTML and Dreamweaver at the very end of the last one, I did talk about that a little bit. I wanted to remind you guys when we made that blank HTML file, and let's go do that really fast. So we're in Dreamweaver, we're going to make a blank HTML file. It hasn't been saved yet, so you can't just hit save. Well, you could, but it's going to prompt you to save as automatically. You want to go to Save As, which would take you to the same place as Save. So File, Save As. It's going to default to be at the very top of the Save As file dropdown. If you were saving CSS, for example, you would go to CSS files and save that, which is in this list somewhere. Where the heck is it? There, right there, Style Sheet, CSS, okay? If you're not saving a CSS sheet, and if you're in my class, those are the 2 basic codes that we've covered. We will get into more advanced code after the test, but using a pre-designed site and just altering the content and changing it around, and this is the best thing to do, I think, for marketers that don't have expert computer knowledge but still want to be able to make their own sites, you're only going to really make CSS and HTML. So HTML, you could be on the second choice, but even if you're on all documents, which is what it always defaults to go to, if I just throw this on the desktop, for example, and click Save, you'll notice I never type in an extension like we got used to doing in Notepad and Text Wrangler. Remember, every time we had a first-time save, we would type in an extension, and it was only for the first-time save. But here, we don't ever have to do it. So we click Save on the desktop. We go and look on the desktop at the properties. Okay, oops, lots of windows open. And it should come up as an HTML document right there. So it automatically does it. So I just wanted to show you guys that. So unless you're saving anything but HTML, all you got to do is go save, even if it's a first-time file, and you know it's going to be HTML, and you don't have to type it in. So you'll see me not typing it in this video when we make all our subpages, which we're going to do. Send a couple other quick notes before we get started. These videos, as I mentioned in my last video, but I didn't make a point of it, they would work for Mac or PC. I try and mention things that I notice are different when I see them on my PC. You'll notice right away I am working in Windows, but my videos and the collection of videos that I have on YouTube are all pretty good for either operating environment because the Adobe apps in general, more so than other applications, look very similar on the Macs and PCs. Okay, I am working in CS6, as you guys all know in my class, and some of you have CS5. This is not a big deal. These skills can be applied to that version even if you have older versions. And finally, someone asked me about this last week at the end of class, and I forgot to mention something. When I keep saying template, and if you've gone through part 1 of my lecture, you already know how we did this, okay? And now this gets into our review phase. So I'm going to leave the PowerPoint slides here and jump over to what we're covering for today. So here's the list that we did last week, okay? Most of this stuff we don't need to go back to, but I am going to quickly review what we did as the bulk of our work, which was import or bring in a pre-designed, already made website. Remember, we got it from freecsstemplates's.org, and when we got it, it was in a root directory, had an index file, had a CSS file, just like we made in the web workshop, okay? So here, when I'm reviewing that, I do want to discuss that this is not a Dreamweaver template. I refer to these pre-designed sites as templates because by definition of the word, that's what they are. They're pre-designed CSS templates. All you got to do is change the content. We are going to change some CSS and stuff like that too. But when we brought it into our computer, it's a standard site, just like we did in the web workshop. Index is the home page. If you get some more advanced ones, they might have some pages or additional files and stuff that you can use. But they're set up as sites, and each page in itself will need to be adjusted in terms of the link you put in because we're not using what's called a Dreamweaver template file. When you go and you have files, here, if we go new, let's say we wanted to make a file in Dreamweaver that would ultimately apply changes to a collection of other types of other HTML files in that page. We could actually use what's called a Dreamweaver template. I don't think this is a terrible way to go. I don't mind it. It does make things a lot easier when you have hundreds of pages in your sites and you want to change links. But I'm going to encourage you guys to avoid this if you're really into search engine optimization. And this creates what's called a DWT file. And you saw that mentioned in my notes there, DWT. We're not making DWT files. One of my students said, well, I went and file new Dreamweaver template, and I was looking at it, and I said, oh man, that's not what we were doing. We're just getting pre-designed site templates that I'm calling templates, but they're not Dreamweaver templates. So I wanted to clarify that, okay? And a Dreamweaver template, well, I don't love it because of SEO issues. It puts a lot of extra code into the HTML pages that are operating off the template, and this code can sometimes cause issues with the browsers in terms of reading, different keywords and optimizing, and it jumbles up a lot of the code for you when you're trying to manipulate it. So it's just not something I love to do. So I'm going to teach you a way around that by just taking your main page in a pre-designed template, and before you make any other pages, you simply customize this page to be set up the way you know the main skeleton of all your pages is going to look. And this is why it's important also to have sort of a plan in your head ahead of time, or on paper. That's why we did the concept map in class, to sort of draw out with your client or yourself what you want to do and how you want the site to be laid out. Because in our case, we have a site with 5 links, and we're going to add a 6th one today. But if we wanted a lot more, we might have wanted to pick a different template for the navigation. We might change some colors. That's going to be more stuff after the test. We will do a bunch of stuff to this template today, though, and then we'll save as from index and just create the pages from that. So technically, not a Dreamweaver template, but something I call a template because it's, by definition, a pre-designed file that we can use as a template by plugging in our own information, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So I've gone over my notes to the viewers today. Here's what we're going to cover in this lecture. Review the creation of a Dreamweaver site, file and folder management, page titles, altering content, hyperlinks, updating links, which we've already done a little bit, but we'll get more into those menu items that I showed you briefly last time, check links and change links. Creating new pages using my cloning method. That's what I was just talking about. And we'll also, in the process of all of this, be doing some minor CSS changes and working with a variety of text and graphics, okay? So unlike last time, I don't need to do a bunch of why we're using Dreamweaver and why I like it better than a lot of the other options. We're already doing it. We've already created a Dreamweaver site. We've got the green folders because it is a Dreamweaver site. If you do not have green folders, you did something wrong. If you see another folder above this one, and the folder is still called Red Avenue and you didn't change the name yet, you've done something wrong, okay? So there's a bunch of stuff we did in the last video having to do with managing the Dreamweaver site once it was created and making sure it was always connected. And just to review, this function, Dreamweaver site, what it did was it added a site folder in here now above our regular choices for file navigation in the file menu, and it's a green folder, and that means it's a site. What means when we have a site, if we go to manage sites, is that we have this site connected to a folder on our computer. That's the demo site. And at the very end, you see I changed the folder name, and then I had to go back in and change the path to the folder name because you can't change the folder name. Here, check it out. You can't change it here. If you go to edit, you can't rename the folder. They won't let you rename the main root directory, just the other folders, okay? So if you did rename that like you were supposed to near the end of class in Windows, then you had to come back in, and when you reopened Dreamweaver, it would have automatically said, there's a broken connection between your main root directory and this site definition. If you never closed Dreamweaver, you would have refreshed and seen that there are no files there. You got to go to Manage Sites, go in here, click the folder button, fix it. All of this that you're seeing, guys, Of course, it's very relevant to you for the test because you may mess this up on the test and have to fix it. But this is the stuff that should never take you time. It should never be clogging up your schedule. Oh, I got to fix my sites and I got folders floating around everywhere. You need to be good file managers. I can't stress this over and over and over again. Beyond knowing anything about making a website, being a good file manager, you're already halfway there to being a good web manager and a good web designer, okay? It's all about file management. You got to take care of your files. That's why I have rules like no capital letters, no spaces, ever in a file name or a folder name. If you never do it, then you never have to wonder, oh, did I put a capital I in my images folder or a small I? If you just stick to the same rule all the time, you're good. So as you can see here, we've gotten up to the point where we see our main root folder up here. We see our other folders down there. It might look a little different if you're on a Mac or an older version of Windows. You hit select there and you're deep enough in, that's your root directory. I don't want to see any of you just on your sites folder. That is not, you haven't gone far enough. You haven't gone to the root directory with your site in it. This is soon to contain your test website, and you're taking your Dreamweaver test very soon. This is soon to contain your website for your final project. If you're watching this video from the other side of the world, this is soon to contain, hopefully, a few websites that you're going to be working on. So I did that to you and made you guys put that folder together because good file management means, whoa, I got like 30 websites. Where are the files? Well, they're always going to be in sites. And where are the files for that site? They're always going to be in the root directory for that site, which you got to go deep enough to get to. Done. We've got it all in there. What did we also do at the very end? We renamed this file and we moved it into the CSS folder, which is our styles folder. Some of you might have styles as your name too. It's totally fine, as long as we got all small letters. When we did that, we saw that with index, we didn't lose the link. It fixed it for us. And in our CSS showing up on index in the HTML, we didn't lose any of those images. All those paths, those file paths, were fixed for us automatically. Then I did it incorrectly to show you how to fix it, okay? So we're going to do that one more time at the beginning today. I can't review this stuff enough. And the purpose of doing it one more time at the beginning is so that you know what to do if you mess it up on the test, because you may. And we're going to make a bunch of pages today too, and this whole updating links thing is very important when you make your pages and move them into folders and stuff like that. Now, number one rule with updating links, never have files open. I can't keep saying that. So if I take this file and close it, and I know everything was working, like open up your index and make sure it's working right now. If you open up your index now and something isn't working, like you don't see your CSS, that's because your link is broken. You don't have the correct file path in there. It probably looks like that, okay, which is not good. Which means all you got to do is go back in there, look for the file path and the quotes. What was that I had in there? Mine isn't in there at all because I just took it out, and you just put the proper file path in there, okay? You guys know how this works. This is the folder it's in. Anytime you have a folder, you got a / and then you name the file. Unless it's in another folder, and then you go /, you know. Go back, it works, okay? Save the changes, Control S, Command S on your keyboard. You don't always have to go to File, Save. You guys got to start getting keyboard shortcuts down. And that's right, I mentioned that thing about keyboard shortcuts in the last video, and then I never went to it, but I did throw a link up in the video for them, the keyboard shortcuts. So you can go back and take a look at that. And keyboard shortcuts in general for Windows will work with the Command key instead of the Control key in a Mac. And in general, the same ones you use in Microsoft applications work in Adobe apps. So start getting those keyboard shortcuts down. You know what? I'm going to throw that into this video right now too. Hang on one. Okay, so here I'll throw this link into the video too. These keyboard shortcuts is the proper URL. Right here at something I've set up for our program. I'm a big guy on keyboard shortcuts, huge, and the students in my class know that. So there's a bunch of cool links here to different keyboard shortcuts. There's even like a game I think that I had included in here somewhere. But lots of info about keyboard shortcuts here, and I even have a special link for Mac users. So learn your keyboard shortcuts, guys. It really helps you save time in here. You can tell, even though my lectures, these first 3 in this playlist are a bit drawn out, the whole point of that is trying to give you tips and tricks that will help you do things more quickly. Okay, so I'm hoping at this point you have exactly what I have here. Everything's working, it's all good. Got off on a bit of a tangent there with the keyboard shortcuts, but Let's close that back up. When we open it, everything's working, everything's fine. Had we opened it and it wasn't working, you could see it was very easy to fix that link. I just went to the file path. How did I know that was there? Well, because I learned this in the web workshop. I knew my CSS link is somewhere in the head. I look at the file path, it's incorrect, so it's not working. Maybe the file path was working, but the images weren't coming up. So you had a situation where you fixed the file path, but your image links, and there's only 3 of them in here, so I'll just go and change them really quick. Okay, now if you had a page with like 20 or 30, you'd never want to go manually change them. So maybe you dragged and dropped and didn't follow the right instructions and somehow ended up with this, okay? You had a page where you'd made changes and you got the link to go in, but you never saved the changes to the CSS file. The reason this usually happens is because you're doing this with the files open, and it doesn't automatically put the change in permanently if the file's open, because you could then end up closing it and not saving it. So that's what happens to some people on the test if they don't drag and drop and update links the proper way. And it's not that hard to come back from that and fix them. And I showed you in the last lecture last week, this is an easy one. If your image paths didn't update, you use Control F, right? And you look for any instances of images / and take that out and put in the bounce out code with images /, okay? Because that's what you were missing. And replace all. Don't go next. Then when you go back here, hey, it's still not working. What's going on? And then people start freaking out. Guys, you haven't saved it yet. Your computer may not refresh quickly enough to show you this change. So Control S. Now you go back. Oh, it's working. So you can see, just for me showing you what goes wrong and helping you troubleshoot that stuff, how easy it would be to mess this stuff up when you're updating links. But you can also see at the same time how easy it is to fix them, okay? Now, in addition to using little tricks I showed you, like Control F to go and fix links like that, and we'll close that file. Let's say that I had a broken file path link to the style sheet, which means I'm not getting any of the images, I'm getting nothing. I saved the file and I closed it. If you go to check links site-wide, in the site menu, I just went to the site menu, check links site-wide, it will be able to tell and find that this is how this works. It shows you the file, and then it shows you the broken link in the file, okay? And we're gonna, on purpose, mess up some links when we make our pages today, our subpages, so that we can use this again. It will find this bad link. I'm sorry, my head went blank there for a second. Even though it's not a hyperlink, it's a connection to a file. I mean, technically it is still a hyperlink. The one thing checklink site-wide can't do is it can't find problems with image path, like file paths for images and stuff like that inside a CSS file, but it's always going to find that. So you can fix this right here. As you know, you can put this folder path in front of it. You know how to fix it there. Let's say it had 20 pages and it was busted on all of them. Okay, another way to do this, if you know which link is broken, and you want to change it site-wide, you can go change link site-wide, and you can say, find anything linked to styles.css and change it to CSS/styles.css. Now, I think this is going to work, even though I don't have a... Oh, no, okay, you do need... Yeah. Unfortunately, without a folder path thing in front of it, you would have to... For a CSS link, I'm glad that happened to me, actually. Now I can... This is better for direct HTML links. Because with a CSS link, if you don't have like here, it actually explained it here. Both links must be absolute or root relative. Well, they are. But I guess with CSS files, it doesn't like that. So this is maybe a better thing to do with HTML, but change link site-wide is really useful because if you had a bad hyperlink and you know it was bad everywhere, you could change it everywhere. Now, if you mess up your CSS like that and it's not connected, you can connect it to one sheet and then connect it to the rest using a little tool. So I'm gonna go back and fix the file path really quick, which is easy. CSS. So I'm just gonna do this manually. I could have done it actually. Hang on here. I'm showing you guys lots of different ways to do this here. It is a broken link, so if you check link site-wide, I could have also just typed right in here. Just click on there and type it in, and it will fix it there automatically. It doesn't need the same syntax issue, the syntax that the change link site-wide does. And if you open it up and go to the design view, it's fixed. Okay. When you have CSS connected to a sheet, now all you got to do is get it connected to one. then you have this little chain link there, and you can attach it to all the rest of the sheets just by clicking on the chain link. And we can get more into this after the test. There's lots of neat tools that are always available to you. You'll probably have noticed when you close a file, or when you're in live view, actually, when you're in live view, you can't edit properties, okay? You can't change things. I think I showed you guys that last week. Same reason when you close a file, you can't edit CSS because you don't have HTML or CSS open to be able to get into that actively. Now we're about to start looking at this stuff. We haven't really yet. So, assuming everything is good, and you know, that was a lot of review. That was 20 minutes of making sure you had everything set up the way you're supposed to from last week, because it's that important. Because now, if you don't have everything set up the way you're supposed to, nothing else is going to work. So it's really important that you went through that with me and did those quick review items. If you're good to go, let's rock and roll, okay? Index. I like the way this is looking. I don't mind the colors so much right now. We'll probably leave them. Number one thing, I'm not going to leave this page title, okay? Right away, I know I'm making a phishing site, so I'm going to call this Mike's Phishing Site. Now, in terms of SEO and proper keyword usage, we're not going to get too out of hand about that right yet. I mean, we'll get more into that after the test. But you do want to at least indicate to everybody which page they're on, maybe even right at the beginning. So you could put home, or you could have your keywords come up first and you could put it at the end. I don't have a strict preference as to which way it goes. A lot of people that are really into SEO argue that it's better at the end, so maybe we could do it at the end. And maybe after Mike's Phishing Site, you can have stuff like address. You can put your telephone number in there, and you can put maybe one phrase without too many words. It says like the best source for phishing guides in southwestern Ontario. We're going to do like a location blog type of thing. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time talking about blogging in class. I know we talked about it a bit when you guys were picking topics, but that can be a really good way to maintain constant updates on a site and keep putting in new keywords and having, your readers suggest different things. You can make new calls to action for SEO. As I keep saying, we're going to get more into SEO after we get through these first 3 introductory Dreamweaver lectures and take the test, but I just want to remind you, I'm not showing you perfect examples of SEO in here right now. I'm just encouraging you. You get a template, it's pre-designed. You never leave the page title as the title for the template. You do it on the test, you're going to get points off. I guarantee it. Also, if you go into code, there's some more stuff I want to get rid of. And at this point, we're just kind of cleaning things up. Okay, so up in the head, and I think I don't know if I mentioned it at all actually in the first lecture. Some of you might have noticed, what's this? Remember this? It's a comment, right? So it's not going to appear. If you go to live view, you're not going to see this anywhere appearing on the surface of the page. But it is in the keywords, and in general, I don't like to have any extra stuff up in the top there associated with anything, because I think it's bad for search engine optimization. Now, I'm going to suggest to my students that you just delete this, because I know we're not using these in the real world. This is copyrighted information courtesy of freecsstemplates.org, and they've let us use this template for free. So if you are going to take it out of the head, you probably should put it somewhere else to be fair to them. Okay, actually it wasn't even in the head. It was a comment in the initial HTML tag. So I'm just getting it out of there completely, and that's what I'm kind of recommending my students to do too. I mean, copyright's a big deal. We still want to give people credit, but we're not publishing this publicly anywhere. We're just using these for my class. For the rest of you that are looking at this and you're making this pre-designed site with me to practice, and you might end up using this exact template for a website, I'm going to just let your conscience be your guide. I always teach my students to, without completely taking away the information that does indicate you didn't make this yourself from scratch, to get rid of as much free CSS links and nonsense as you can. Okay? So this heading here, we're eventually going to change to something like Mike's Phishing. I'm editing in code right now, and you guys could be doing the same thing. But what I'm doing now, for the most part, is just to give you guys an idea of how you'd take a pre-designed site and start to change it around. The content itself is something we'll tweak and work on more after the test, okay? And I'm not too picky about the content on the test either. The SEO stuff comes later. That's for your project. So let's kind of go through the site, and I see this stuff, and I could just pretty much get rid of that. Okay, so I've got it highlighted, and I could put just coming soon and have some different text there. Okay, if I go down here, I see there's actually hyperlinks here. Okay, if you click on them. Okay, so if you click on them, you'll see that they're actually signed up to a dead link. I'm going to explain what that means in a second, but they're not going anywhere, and I don't necessarily know that we're going to need privacy policy at terms of use, so we might as well just get rid of those links right now. Just make sure you're not in CSS anymore. I think we were there at the end of last week. Make sure you're in HTML in the properties inspector, and just by clicking on anything that's a hyperlink, so if I click on this one, you can see the link comes up, and you can change it, edit it, or just backspace over and delete it. This is WYSIWYG, people, so this is a lot different than we were doing back in Notepad or Text Wrangler. And you can see by doing that, we just remove the tags that are associated with hyperlinks, which we'll look at in a second when we get up here. So let's start looking at the menu stuff then. So I haven't gone crazy. I've just been kind of going around, cleaning up the page a bit. Ooh, maybe that one there. Is that linked to freecsstemplates.org? Okay, it is. And I still want to give them credit, but I don't really think that it's absolutely necessary to maintain the link in here if we're not using this for public access. That's probably in their license agreement that we put in the raw folder over there, but I'm just going to get rid of that link. I can keep FCT in there. So in general, what I would do with the footer, let's get this done while we're down here. I shouldn't have jumped up to the other part there. Okay, so I'm going to be pausing a bit and stopping. I don't want to make this video too long, so when I'm doing basic content changes like that, I probably won't have that being recorded. I'm going to try and cut off a little time here. So I just put something like that, and now I'm going to change this stuff as well. Okay, and you'll see what I did. Let's pretend I was incorporated for some reason. I put copyright 2012 Mike's Fishing Site design based on freecsstemplates.org design. If you go into code view, by the way you get that copyright thing is and copy with a colon after. And it'll give you that little thing with the circle in it. It's kind of hard to find that character sometimes, especially in Adobe programs. You got to dig around for it. It is in there, but the code for that is just and copy, okay, for copyright. So we've kind of cleaned that up. I'm probably going to leave the list. I can leave this stuff. I can edit that or use these divs on later pages once I get there. I am going to change this because I want to kind of get the idea of what each page is going to say. So I'm going to change that to welcome to Mike's Fishing Site. Okay, so highlight it up, welcome to Mike's Fishing Site. And you got to be careful when you're making changes too. This is in an H1 tag. So if we go to the code and we edit it and we see that, H2, sorry, it's in an H2 class title tag. So there's a class on this. Whatever it is that's on there, we may want to keep the same font. So if we go back over it and delete it, we have to be careful that we don't keep backspacing too far. You see what I just did in the code? I just removed the H2 tag completely. I mean, you can remove just the text, right? And then if you remove too much, you remove the tag completely. And then people sit there trying to figure out, well, wait a second, I removed the tag, now what do I do? Now I can't get it back. Now you can type something back in there, like Mike's Fishing Site, and then you don't have the tag back. It's in a paragraph break, but you wanted it to look all big with that H. There's a couple different ways you can get back to that formatting. And this is what happens when people get templates and things go awry, is they like the way it looks, so they start changing stuff, but they end up removing a lot of tags in the process of just backspacing and deleting in WYSIWYG, because it's easy to do, right? You can just remove tags just by accident. You can even remove entire divs by accident, simply by highlighting the wrong thing and hitting delete. So you have to be very careful of what you take out and put back in. And if you ever do something that you're not happy with, you can always just close the file and not save. Up to this point, I'm going to hit Control S now. You should always be saving your changes if you've been happy. I'm happy with the changes I made, so I'm going to hit Save, and that's a good practice to get into. I'm going to highlight this, okay? And I'm really having trouble with my graphics. Let's just highlight that part of it. So my video recording tool is making issues with my graphics. But let's go back to code view and make sure, let's go to split view and make sure we're highlighting the two things. So you can see it's there. All I need to do is put back on it the class, okay? So I don't see it here. Huh. It was a span class that I know was in my CSS though. So let's go to CSS and see if there's a rule there. Span class. So I don't really see it. So this is, and we haven't learned much CSS yet. So this is already getting kind of annoying. All right. I'm trying to get that H2 back and I can't find it. I'm doing this on purpose, right? How about if I just go Control Z on my keyboard? Oh, there it is. I got it back. So even though I save changes, because a lot of files, if you save them in certain applications, you can't undo them. Dreamweaver is friendly like that. So even though I saved changes, I was able to Control Z and get back, and there, it was title. That's why I wasn't seeing it. Well, I knew what it was, but I was looking for something H2, but the class is actually title, okay? So we're giving it H2 formatting, but then we're giving it a class title that makes it a little different. And you know what? Now that I look at it, I don't really like the font that I have for that class. So I want to change that now. Now that can be changed in your CSS file. Doesn't have to be changed here, and then you'll just see it changed there and any other place where you use that class. So I'm going to show you this as one example, and then we'll do lots more of it in this lecture today. Okay, so in Design View, we're going to look at something called the Tag Inspector, and this is the first time we're going to use it. So we have our Properties Inspector down here. Sorry, the Tag Panel. Hang on a second. You know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quickly revert back to that diagram I gave you guys last week to make sure I'm using the right names. I know I'm not for one of the things, so I was playing games with you here. Hey, so here's that diagram, and we have the Property Inspector, and this is the Tag Selector. Okay, and I've called this the Property Inspector, and I've called this something else, and I've called this the Property Selector and the Tag Pane and the Property Pane. It's annoying that teachers don't memorize the names of these things in the workspace, which is why I give you something like this. And in general, I will always use the right names, and if I don't, I'll correct myself right away. But we're going to take a look at what's called the Tag Selector. And this is a very, very important tool that we can use in Dreamweaver, particularly when we've downloaded a pre-designed website that someone already did for us, and we aren't that familiar with the CSS. The Tag Selector will always get you onto the right thing. So when I highlight the H2 title, I know if I go to Code View, I'm only going to be highlighting from chevron to chevron the stuff that's included in that H2. If I just take my mouse and try and highlight stuff, I might grab the picture by accident, and you don't want to do it that way. You want to use the Tag Inspector. And the advantage of using the Tag Inspector is when you get there and you highlight the tag that you know you have on it, you can go up here. I'm going to pull this down a bit, and you'll see the rules for the selection that you have over here, okay? So right now, I have this selected, and it's normal Verdana, Georgia. There, that's what I don't want, Georgia, because I don't want serif. So I can double click on it, or I can actually change it down here usually too, if the property is conducive to that. And I'm going to make this to Verdana as well, because I don't like the serif. I like the way that looks better. I just prefer it, okay? So you can see now it looks like that. It's a little bit slicker, a little bit simpler. So what I'm going to do now is go through and make some changes to the page. And I'm going to list the changes for you guys in a document off to the side here. And I'm going to have you do the same changes. But I'm not going to record it because it's very simple, mindless type of stuff. And it just doesn't need to be included in the video. So as I go through here, you know what? Actually, well, this is what I was saying when my videos aren't scripted. I mean, we could do it together in the video here. We're going to change this, okay? This is going to be email list. So what am I doing? I'm just changing stuff in the page. I want you guys to make all the same changes as me. That's going to be email list. I want to get this form out of here, and I'm going to put an email list plugin form in there eventually. You can just go here, click your mouse in there. No. There, too far. See how this Tag Inspector works? I'm in this general area right now. With my mouse, I'd have a hard time clicking the right thing to know what to delete. But with the Tag Selector, I could these are just labels. That gets rid of those things. Okay, what's the field set? Okay, that got rid of, there's still some form in there, that thing. Okay, see what I did? And then I can just put coming soon. And when I get a plugin code for the email list, I'll just paste it in there. And you will have to do that on a bunch of pages. It's ideally, you should have all this stuff set up before you even make more than one page. Your Facebook, all the links, everything, okay? And set up to put in your menu. And that's more what we're going to do after the test. This is just a really simple site, so I'm assuming you would have that in there. And, you know, I would just put plugin code for subscription to e-newsletter would go here. And obviously, when you have code to cut and paste, you would do that in Code View. Recent updates, that's going to be recent fish, okay? And you can leave the lorem ipsum. Do you guys know what lorem ipsum is? Lorem ipsum is not, it looks kind of like Latin. It's technically not. It's just pure nonsense. And it's meant to fill space in a pre-designed template like this. You'll see it in all kinds of stuff, not just web pages, so that you can see what it's going to look like once you get the content in there. You can leave that. You probably don't need so many entries, I mean, but you could leave them just to get an idea of how you're going to set that up. Now, on some of the lower pages, you might not even keep this side div. You might only have that on the main page, and then you might make an additional div for the main area to take up the main area. So for right now, we're just kind of making our main template. So up here, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to change that to Mike's Fishing. Okay, I'm not going to put site because I'm going to squeeze this a bit. I don't really need that stuff after it either. Just get rid of that altogether. Get rid of this stuff here. So if you sit on the text and try and find the span, then if you go to code view, you can see you're highlighting, like, it's not even picking up everything. Like, it's also an H2. You might as well get everything that text is associated with. So span, H2, there. Now hit delete on your keyboard. Now what it did is it removed all that code. So there's no extra junk laying around, right? Like just empty codes that aren't being used. Believe it or not, that does mess up the quality of your page, even when search engines are looking at it sometimes. So I cleaned that up. I got that out of there. Be careful when you're changing this text. If you just start backspacing over it and you keep going, and then you type it back in, you'll see, wow, that doesn't look the same. That was actually a hyperlink, and when you backspaced over, like I showed you earlier, you got rid of the hyperlink. Okay, so you can go back into code, and in code view, you can hit undo to get back to what it was. And it was one of those number signs. So let's talk about those now. A number sign is a dead link. That's pretty much the easiest way to describe it. The reason we want a number sign is because in a style sheet, and I'm going to click to open the style sheet. Now here's another little trick that you haven't seen yet. Whenever you have an HTML file open, any style sheet it's attached to, you can just click here to see the code. You don't actually have to go and open the file. Okay? If we go and look at the area where those links are, and there's a bunch of links in menu. So let's go and find the div called menu. Okay? So here's menu. So menu actually has A. A is how links will look. And then they have a hover and active and some additional stuff there. If I go up to the main HTML tags in the CSS, you'll see that I have A here as well. This is what A will look like just across the page. So that's what it will look like, unless you're putting content into a div like menu where you've redefined A. That gets into that whole hierarchy thing. Okay? So I set up a little file to show you this really quickly when we got to this point. Okay, here we are. I just wanted it to be a bit bigger on the screen. So this is one of those CSS rules that we didn't actually do in the web workshop, and I told you guys you had to go find how to change hyperlinks. So obviously H1 and body and all those things were obvious, but when you looked at href and the link was all big, what did you actually use as the CSS HTML tag to adjust the property value, all the formatting for that? It's just simply the letter A. So if you have this somewhere in the upper part of your CSS, that's what every A on that page is going to look like. When you go and then start making divs with IDs like menu, if you then follow another, so this could have the properties and values here, blah, 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 blah. Then down a little lower, there's div menu, body, there's div menu. You can redefine the text and everything in there. You can redefine the way the links look. And you can have them look a certain way. So when you get a template, what you see a lot is that you get a pre-designed site and they've put number signs in these spots where they want you to see. So just in the logo area, they have formatting for how A is going to look. And we're on our CSS in the properties panel. And that's why when I'm sitting here, if I click just sitting into the, okay, see where my cursor is there? So the cursor, if I bring up the HTML properties, will show me there's a link there, and it's for a number sign. Okay. The reason this link is good is because it's showing us what the text is going to look like if I put an actual hyperlink in there. But a number sign, as it stands as a hyperlink, does nothing. So what you do is you remove that completely and you replace it with the link this is going to be. I am going to eventually put a little logo there or something, not before the test, but you know, I'll get something in there. So for right now, I know I do want to keep it there, and it's always going to link back to the home page, which is index.html, which means if we have a logo that links back to the home page, we don't necessarily need the link that goes back to the home page. But I'm going to leave it in there anyway because I think it's good practice to have lots of places to go back to the home page. So when I did that and hit enter, I just entered my first hyperlink in Dreamweaver without a lot of effort. And if I go back to code view, you can see it replaced the number sign with index.html. If I wanted to link to something, for example, like an absolute link or something down here, like in this list item, okay? if I wanted to link to this externally, and it was like to Fanshaw's website for some reason, you know, this is not good optimization. We're just doing examples. www.fanshawc.ca. That's a hyperlink. That's a URL. That's a domain name with a URL. It'll go to that, okay? And I hit enter. It makes the link. Now, something funny happened there. What's going on here? Every time you start adding content in a template, you'll see things that you might not like. This is the only downfall of getting a pre-designed template. Yes, we didn't have to design any of this other stuff. We didn't have to put together all this CSS. But sometimes we see stuff like that and we don't like it. Okay, so, hey, where'd my change go? Sorry, it's there. I just couldn't tell because it was still highlighted. So this is a hyperlink. Okay, you can see that it's taken on the red text. That's what hyperlink looks like, probably inside of this div, which is div story. Or maybe hyperlink looks a specific way in the list. I'm not sure. We'd have to go exploring the CSS. What I did see for a second there, and I didn't really like, was that when I entered that hyperlink, it had justified the text in a way that kind of wasn't sitting well with me. It was sticking it all the way out to the sides. So if you use the tag inspector again, and you go over, it'll show you each tag it's inside of. And if you go to the code, you can see this is a line item in an OL. It's in a div. Yeah, so OL. Justify, there it is. So you see what I did? Here. So I'm sitting there. I'm in a list item. I'm in a line item. Okay. Click this. Selection, current. Justify. Okay, so I can fix it right there. So I can set this up to be left align instead of justified. And then when that text jammed all over there and tried to spread it out to the sides, I won't have to deal with that anymore. In fact, if you're in the CSS menu, they have shortcut buttons for that we used last week in the first lecture. And it's the same type of thing you see in like Microsoft Word, guys. This WYSIWYG makes it a lot easier. And you have to start getting used to using the tag inspector to figure out what tags are making it look that way by properly always starting at the right, go to the left. You always start at the right, go to the left. And then you use this area to find where the CSS is that you want to change. So let's keep changing stuff. So we just added an absolute link right there. Okay, up here, and if we go to HTML, you can see the absolute link. Oh, yeah, what if I wanted you to open that in another window? And a lot of times, this is what I'm going to request for you guys to do, because it's better optimization not to have people leaving your site. If you're going to send them to an absolute location, which an absolute link is off-site, okay, you would want to do a blank link so it opens up as a new window. You can choose that here when you're sitting on the link without having to go in and put it into the code. I think we did that in the web workshop. Now I'm showing it to you in Dreamweaver. And you will have to do it on the test as well. So that would open up as a new window. This, as I'm going back up, I'm going to get rid of this as well. This is going to be, I might get rid of this div on the main page, but for right now, I'm going to put more on phishing here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to put. I'm going to leave the rest of the lorem ipsum. I'm happy with the content changes I made so far. Let's build our menu. Okay, so this is the fun part, and this is the big thing we're doing today, and it won't take that long. Menu. Let's take a look at the menu items. So if we go to code view, here, let me get back clicked on my menu here. If we go to code view, you'll see you have each of the menu items. The reason that one looks red right now is because it has a special class that makes it red, and we're going to have to fix those in the subpages eventually. Not today, but we will. So I got this and this and this. I know I want a 6th menu item. That's why I would jump to code view. We can even do this in split view. I know that I want an extra menu item. So right off the top, the easiest way to do it without messing it up in design view, because in design view, you'd probably end up going like that, and you'd backspace it, and then you'd type something in, and then it doesn't look the same anymore. The only reason that's happening is because you've not only lost your hyperlink, which makes it look a certain way in there, you've actually deleted the line completely, and now you're not even in a line tag. So as easy as things can be by doing it all in WYSIWYG, you need to be careful when you're just backspacing and deleting. If you lose the formatting or you lose code, go back into code view, just go undo. You can do it in design view too. Okay, see, that's all you did. So copy the line item completely, enter down, paste it in, you've created your 6-item menu. Already you have problems. Let's not even look at the links and the menu items yet. We're going to do that last. Already you do have problems here. you need, and now based on what you've learned, you should be able to fix this now. So I want to stop you guys. I want you to stop. I want to see if you guys can figure out how to get this to fit all on one line just by using the tag inspector, okay? So we'll start by sitting in, we'll sit in the support one right here, okay? So all the tags that are associated with that item. Okay, and I want you guys to try and figure it out. Pause the video and then come back to me. Okay, so how many of you totally messed this up? Number one, don't save your files. Don't save changes to your CSS because it's not correct, okay? If you messed it all up good, you'd want to close your file now and not save changes to styles, okay? That's what you're going to do because you messed something up real good. I'm actually going to leave this the way it is because I haven't made any changes yet. I'm going to be sitting there. I'm going to go A. A is the very first tag that's around it. If you go to split view, see A? It's the very first tag around it. Here is the summary for A. It's giving it text. It's making it a line. It's in a block format. It's got padding. It's got an image in the background. There's a lot of stuff there coming in. And that's only A for the menu there, okay? It also is 100 pixels wide. So this should tell me something. I know by adding a second line item or a second A, let's not even look at line item. What's line item? See, line item doesn't even have any of those properties because they were all put into A. So line item just accepts the stuff from A, which is 100 pixels wide. So I know I added one to make it 100 pixels wide, to make it 100 pixels wider. How big is the menu? Keep clicking over. UL doesn't have any defined widths. Menu. 500. Okay, so what's going on here is that when this was up here as 500, as 5 links only, it had enough room to fit in the main div, which if we keep going over, div header doesn't have, oh, there, div header, 740. So that's probably the width of the entire site. And we might want to consider making that even wider. You could make that wider. You can make the logo narrower. You can do a lot of things to make that, because what's happening is, right now, this is 740 wide. If you click on Mike's Fishing, okay, so let's get onto Mike's Fishing, and then use the tag inspector, logo, this is 240 wide. So this at 500 and 240, there's not enough room for it to fit in this, which is the thing that's keeping it all together. So if I were to jump over to Microsoft Paint, what you have here, and I know this is funny that I'm opening up Paint, but this is actually a good program to show you this in. So, okay, so let's just grab the pencil here. Here's header, okay? This is 600 wide. Here's div logo. Here's div menu. This is 240. Like this? I am quite the artist. This is 500, okay? What happened when we added a second menu item that we now know by using the tag inspector was worth 100 more pixels? It moved it down here. The reason is because this isn't 600. What am I doing? 740. Okay, this is 740. Because 500 plus 240 is 740, and that's all that could fit in there. Doesn't mean it's not going to show it to you. It's just going to start another 500 on a new line in the same div. Okay, that's how it fixes itself. That's how it corrects itself. You are not liking that. You are going to make something smaller so the menu fits. You notice you took some text away from the logo a while ago. Go here over to div logo. How much did you take away from it? 100, right? So it's 240. Go to 140. And because the other thing was exactly 100 more, that should now fit inside of your menu. Okay, so what's going on here? Why isn't this working? What's going on, guys? Can you figure it out? I did it. I gave it enough room. What's going on? I don't understand. Oh, wait a second. If the menu is only 500 wide, it put the next thing on the next line because it could only fit it in the menu. So in addition to making this small enough for that to fit on there, you also have to go to the menu. So click on one of the menu items. Okay, and you have to make that the 100 pixels big enough. See what we just did? So we took a pre-designed template that only had 5 menu items, and we wanted 6, and we made it work. No big deal. So that's the big lesson for today. And that we're talking minor CSS stuff. Now what you're going to do, and you're going to change the page around a lot more when you actually have your own main index page that you're setting up to be your main template, and then you're going to clone everything from it. We haven't spent that much time on it, okay? And that's what you're going to do on the test. You're going to do it fast. So now you guys are going to go and add the links to each item in the menu. And unlike when you have like a floating piece of text just in a div, you should highlight the whole piece of text. When you have an item like this that has a fixed width, you can sit anywhere in it and you can go and fix the text. So first, I'm going to get rid of some of the stuff. I don't want it to be home page. It can just be home. This can just be about. This is not going to be products. This is actually going to be locations. Oops, what did I just do? I just deleted the link tag with the text. So don't worry about it. Just undo. I just Control Z on my keyboard. It's actually better to just highlight it and then type in the word. Okay, that way you don't backspace over the tag. Clients is going to be gear. Support is going to be contact. And the second repeated support is actually going to be maps. So you guys go ahead and get those in there, okay? Pause the video, everybody get those in there. I just did that with WYSIWYG. If you go over top of a tag and you delete it, just undo. You can easily fix that stuff. Okay, you're back. So save your file. You've made some changes. Now let's put all the links in. Pay very close attention to what I'm going to do. This is the home page. Just like the logo is going to link back to index, both of these are going to link back to index.html. I know it's linking back to itself. That's fine. You're linking back to itself because when you save this as another page, you want that link to work back to go to index, okay? Hit enter. Always hit enter once you type it in there and pay attention to make sure you're typing it right. Click on about, okay? Instead of just calling it about, and notice how I'm getting rid of the number sign. The dead link is showing you what the link's going to look like. You don't need it anymore once you actually put in a relative link for your site. I'm not just going to call it about. I'm going to actually call it Mike's Fishing About. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'd like to throw in a few keywords in the page titles. I can't do that on index because I need that home page to be named index, as we learned a long time ago. But for this, I can go Mike's Fishing About.html. Each time you do it, hit enter, okay? Make sure you go and click on the next one before you go to add more links. So watch what happens. While I'm sitting on this one, without clicking on the next one, if I just start scrolling my mouse, well, you have to still be in the enter box. If I just start scrolling my mouse, it scrolls through any of the different links I've added, and I could accidentally change that before I click off onto the next one. So once you do each one, okay, get rid of the number sign, Mike's Fishing Locations .html, enter. Get the heck back out of this insert box, because if you stay in there, you run the risk of scrolling through and picking the wrong link and having a bad link. So click on the next one, okay? And then go down here and type Mike's Fishing Gear. So you guys should all be doing this with me now, okay? You already got the idea. You probably can get the last two in yourself. Hit enter, Mike's Fishing Contact and Mike's Fishing Maps. I'll let you do those last two yourself. Okay, so I've typed in the last two, and I've got all these different hyperlinks. If I go to code view, you can see that I put in all these links. I deliberately put a typo in this one, and you will soon find out why. Okay, so I've put links to all the pages. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Mike, what is going on here? We haven't even made these pages yet. Yeah, I know, but these are the 6 main pages you're going to have on your site. And off these pages, you might clone other pages for additional location pages and gear pages and stuff like that. You just keep cloning off pages that already have all your navigation in them, so you don't ever have to keep redoing that stuff. They have all the instructions to bring up the divs in them. You don't have to redo it every time. You do it you figure out one page, you get the menus in, and you clone it. So I think it'd be nice if I scroll down on some pages, and I'm going to put a lot of content. I think it'd be nice if I had a sub menu as well. And I'm going to show you a really quick and dirty way to make a chintzy sub menu in Dreamweaver WYSIWYG without having to create any new CSS. I'm just going to use whatever CSS is applying the formatting in the footer, and I'm going to type in the same 6 items: home, about, locations, gear, contact, map. I'm going to type them in, and then on my keyboard, just above the enter key, there's actually a straight up and down line, and you can use it getting the command or the Apple key shift. On a Mac, shift, on a PC, shift, on a Mac, it's command. This is a great thing to use. It's a keyboard character accepted by all browsers, and you can use it to separate items in a submenu. That's just going to be a really simple, nothing flashy submenu. Space, type in the next one. About. Space, line, type in the next one. So I'll let you guys finish that. You can type it in yourselves. And again, that key with the straight line that you're seeing there, I'm getting that on my keyboard. It's just above the enter key, above the backslash, and you got to use the shift key. It might be in another place on yours, but it should be there somewhere, okay? So I'll let you finish typing that in while I'm doing mine. Okay, so I just typed all those in there with the straight lines, and now I'm going to highlight each one and add the appropriate hyperlink for the page I'm going to make for that. This one actually has the page already. It's indexed. So and now this time you don't actually have to type them all in again because you've already typed them in once. They'll be in this menu. And once you get the one, get the heck out of there and go to the next word, okay? And then once you get that one, Mike's Fishing About, see how you don't have to type them in? And don't do anything because if you scroll, yeah, I guess doing it this way outside of the div menu, it's not doing that. But just pay attention to what you're adding. You could easily add the wrong link if you scroll through to the wrong thing. Gear, and this is the kind of little Dreamweaver stuff that very few instructors would actually teach students. It's just stuff that I see students make mistakes on. So now I teach it as troubleshooting stuff, and then students don't make the mistakes. Mike's Fishing Contact. And then maps, I go Mike's Fishing Maps. Oops, what did I do there? I only did like the one little line. I want the whole word. Now, unlike the menu above where you have it set up with divs and the CSS is automatically going to apply the link to the entire word, down here it's just free words just floating around in content. So you have to highlight each letter in the word, no spaces, or it'll create a link to the spaces to get the link, and then that one. Okay, so this is coming along. I've made a full top navigation menu. I've made a full bottom navigation menu. I made a bunch of funny little changes. I've just basically gotten the site set up so that if I wanted to take the About page and start getting it ready, I could take this exact page and just change the content to About. And that's where my cloning technique comes in. So, and I changed the site title, or the page title too, okay? So now, save your changes. Don't forget to save your changes, or you have to go back and save index from one of the new files. You want to remember to save now, to the point where if you need to, just close the file. When you go to do that, it's going to automatically prompt you to save changes to styles. And you're going to be like, whoa, I didn't even open styles. I know that. But Dreamweaver is a content management system, as a program that manages your files like this. You're automatically getting changes made to your styles without even opening the file. So you do want to save those changes. Now open up index again, and now having index opened, you know that you got it set up and it's saved. So now you can safely go to file. There's a couple ways you could do this. I mean, you could actually clone it down here and just make a bunch of copies and rename them, but then it's going to keep asking you to update links, and there's really nothing to update yet. So the best way to do it is just to go to File, Save As, and literally make the files that you know you typed into your menu for the links here. So that's right that you hadn't made the files yet, but now you're making them. Mike's Fishing About. Save. Don't type in the HTML. Right off of that one, not even go into the other one. Mike's Fishing Locations. Okay? I'll let you guys make the rest. I mean, you can see where I'm going with this. Make the other three. Okay, so when I keep doing that, I expect you guys to pause and then finish the work that I'm doing, and then when you come back, I will have done it as well. So now, if we pull our files pane up a bit, you'll see, and you might have to hit this refresh button. That's the refresh button, by the way. I haven't shown you that yet either. To see all the files, you have just created all the subpages in your site on top of index, in addition to index. Okay, and you don't have to. You have 6 pages total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't have 12 just because you made 12 hyperlinks. They're each linking to the same pages in the top and the bottom menu. Okay, I'm assuming based on what you learned in the web workshop, you guys already understand that. So once you do that, each of these respective pages is going to require small edits, which you'll have to do in the test. I'll tell you, edit this title on the maps page so that it's about maps. So Mike's Fishing Site, address, you could take out this kind of stuff, and you could put the easiest to follow maps to Ontario fishing. I'm just going to put ... And then here you put maps. So you name the page. So you change each of the site titles. You change the content in here. You change maybe the picture. I'm going to show you how to do a standard picture for the whole site in the next lecture in the part 3. But you just edit the stuff. And I'm not going to get into that too much in my lectures, because really at that point, I mean, if you can't click on your mouse and just start editing and understand by the steps I took you through in this video that if you backspace over stuff and you lose a tag, you simply have to undo to get it back. You should be able to make all these editing changes without losing divs and losing content, okay? I think you guys can handle it. So you'd be doing stuff like that. And you know, you could do that to these files each right after you save them while they're all still open without even closing them all. And then to save changes to all of them at the same time, you can go save all, and then you can close all, and then you just made a website. Done. You just made a freaking website. I mean, it does not take that long. Now, granted, if we pull this back up, like I tend to advise students to, you know, get a template that works for you really well, you know, in terms of the layout. But don't get too hung up on the colors and the graphics because you can change those. And we're going to do a little bit of that in the third lecture, but that's more so stuff we're going to do, you know, later on after the test. Okay, and it'll all be based on this demo template, Mike's phishing site, so that you guys can do the same thing to the same files that I have. Now, to end this, we're going to go back to updating links, and we're first going to start with check links. Okay. Don't move anything or follow any. The first thing you want to do, and I probably won't tell you to do this on the test, I, on purpose, put a bad link in here. Okay, I knew I was going to call this file Mike's Phishing Maps, but I left out the H. I had a typo. I did that on purpose. I, on purpose, named one of the files badly. Okay, so when I go to check links, there's going to be a lot of bad links because I have 2 of these in every page, and I have 6 pages now. It's not a big deal. And you don't need to do this with files open. It's totally fine to do it without your files open. If you were to go and navigate to, there's my awesome artwork. If you were to go and navigate to these files in Windows, which I'm going to do, and pull them up in Chrome or in your browser, whatever it is. Okay, sites, there's my file. Let's open one, Mike's Fishing About. Okay, I should be able to go back to home for Mike's Fishing About right here, or click around and navigate this. Okay, so I'm on, I'm on index. Sorry, I open an index. I go to about. Oh, what the heck? What's going on here? I go here. Mike's Fishing Locations. Gear. I didn't even know I messed that one up. Contact, maps. That doesn't work. What is going on? Don't freak out, guys. You're going to do this on the test, and you're going to see this happen. Unfortunately, this is only coming in at an hour into this lecture, but this is probably the most important part of this lecture. Because what you just did is that halfway mark in the test. You made all these... You did all these edits to your index page, and then you cloned the page and built your site up with a bunch of pages. Before you go and create a pages folder and move all those into it, which is the last thing we do in this lecture, you want to make sure your links work. Because if your links don't work and then you move the pages and update links, you're just updating links on bad links. So close all your files in Dreamweaver, go to site and check links site-wide. Look at each of the files where the link is located, and then look at the file where it's not working. That's that typo I had. So I can go over here and fix that by adding the Mike's Fishing. Okay, no, that's not Mike's Fishing About. What did I do here? Mike's Fish About. Oh, I did do that on purpose. I named a file wrong. Okay, well, that link is right. So go over here and rename the file Mike's Fishing About. Okay? It's going to ask to update links. It really shouldn't matter what you update. You can click update anyway. You're always updating links as long as you don't have files open. You know you're doing it right. Now, if I reload check links site-wide, I shouldn't have any of those Mike's Fishing About. See, they're all gone. So that one, I didn't type in a bad link, but when I typed in the file name, I did it incorrectly. And then I picked it from the drop-down for the bottom nav, and I picked it a bad name again. Okay, and I don't. Some of you might have noticed that I did that, but there was a reason. So I typed in a bad file name. And that I just fixed over here, and then I refreshed check links site-wide, and now all I have are 2 links on every page to Mike's Phishing Maps that needs an H added to it. If I type H into the first one here, H, what am I doing? No, it's I'm not type H. Okay, I'm there. Okay, hit enter. It's going to ask me if I want to fix them all. All gone. Fixed. Done. Students get this messed up on a test and they're sitting there. This is the magic of tools like that. Check links. And if you have a link to your Facebook profile, then you change your Facebook profile. And it's linked in every menu. Type in the old link here, the exact link, and then put the new one in there. And it fixes it on every page in your site without ever opening them with change links site-wide. This, even in this menu, you can actually check, where is it? I think it's under commands maybe. You can check code, and you know what, that's getting a little ahead of where we are right now, but you can actually advanced Site-specific code hints. That'll tell you where code's busted. There's a couple different cool spots, though, where you can actually check the code. And it looks like it's in a little bit of a different spot, actually, than it used to be in CS5. I'm going to check that out really. Oh, no, there it is. It's here. It's just gray because we don't have any files open. Clean up code. So clean up HTML. It might say clean up XHTML, depending on what kind of file you have open. That'll find issues with your code without having to go through and find them yourself. I mean, this is a different world than the web workshop, guys. And now what we're about to do, I hope you can see the advantage of this. So we know by going to check links site-wide that there's no issues with our links, okay? And that's a very important thing to do. That I might add that note to the test the more I think about it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if you guys are watching this video all the way this far, you'll just know to do it. So no issues with links, which means if I go like this, and I right-click on my main folder, so the main folder, I'm not going to make it inside a subfolder. I see lots of students doing that too. I'm going to make a folder called Pages, and I'm going to take all the pages except index. Not index, because index is my main page, and that still needs to be floating around in the root directory. I'm going to use my shift-down arrow keys, or I could just click the next one with a shift, or you can just use your mouse to highlight them. You want to highlight them all, because it's easier to drag them all in at once than dropping them. You can either cut them and paste them, or just drag them and drop them right into that folder. First thing it's going to ask you to do you want to update links? Yeah. So you update links, and I'll show you what it fixes. This is going to take a bit longer because it's more stuff to update. So this is what you should see now. This is a complete site with your folders all collapsed, okay? CSS, images, pages, a raw folder with your original zip site, and one file only sitting there floating around. So that's the big first step in your site after you make your pages. I think I actually might have you make the pages folder before you even make the pages. The order of which shouldn't matter. If I've taught you how to do it, it shouldn't matter if I change the order around a bit, guys. You should still be able to do this stuff. All it is file management. When I open up Index and I click on a link up here, which is in Pages now, see? You can see it's added that pages / to it, okay? If I open up a file from Pages and I click on one of these links to Index, you can see that it's put the bounce out code to get back out to Index. These links actually didn't change because they're still in the folder right next to each other. So there you go. Once again, I've gone through a series of steps here, and this is, we reviewed this stuff, folder and file management, we did page titles, pre-design, altering content, hyperlinks, blank links, updating links, create new pages using Mike's cloning technique, basic to minor CSS, exploration CSS changes. We've done all this stuff, and it could all happen in like 5 minutes even. I mean, holy cow, guys. You could do this so fast if you needed to make a site fast. I need to take time with my students. I need to take time with those of you that are watching this video in the case that you aren't good file managers and you do need a little help getting the site set up and looking all pretty like that. But once you do it a couple times, you're gold, which is why it's to your benefit that once I finish the third installation, the third component to this 3-part lecture series, I am going to do one single compressed version that shows you how to open Dreamweaver, set up a site, and get the site set up, from an unzipped pre-designed template, and that'll actually be the second site we're going to set up. That'll be my test example. And upon doing that, you will have done all the things in almost 3 hours of lecturing in like 20 minutes. My goal is to make that video really short, and you can tell I don't have that goal at all when I'm doing these videos, right? Because these are full lectures. I mean, this is for a 2-hour class. The only reason they only take an hour is because I don't have you guys asking me questions. I'm doing these ones at home, okay? Just remember, as always, you can pause me anytime, and I will see you in the next one. I don't think there was anything else I had to tell you. Let me just make... No, I think we're good. I think that covers it. So you guys are now through all of this and all of this, which, believe it or not, is quite a bit in Dreamweaver. I mean, this is the result of my using Dreamweaver for a long time, some of these little tricks and things I've noticed, and even stuff like this. Like, a lot of students get upset because their files are sorted differently than mine, and the files are on top of the folders. It's just a matter of getting the local files set up to be sorted with folders first, okay? And if you're on a Mac, this might not even ever look the same way as mine, and that's fine, okay, when we get to the test, as long as you understand how to use the files panel and how it works. So, big new thing today then, to summarize, was us playing around in here with the CSS stuff. And the one thing I didn't get to, which we will get to at the beginning of the next class, is how instead of opening the current properties up from here and editing in whichever category you're editing in. Just editing in here is just to do one-off edits down here where you can actually type them right in. And you can even add properties to CSS down there. All of this going into the CSS file without you ever opening it, okay? And you kind of have to have your HTML file open for that to work though. So let's close these guys up and we will see you in part 3.